Okay, from a safety point of view, the by far most important item is that all electronics, all electronics, radar, sonar, GPS, 6 GPSs that I have on this boat, VHF, etc., are all dependent on one single fuse, which, by the way, is illegal. The rules say that each one should be independent so that the failure of one will not cause the failure of all the others. And it did happen to me. I was 50 miles away from the nearest shore when the whole system blew up, blacked out. There were no electronics. I had no navigation, no communication, no VHF, of course, no cell phone, because I was out of range. So I had no way to ask for help. And because the systems are so intertwined with the Volvo system, the engines went down to minimal power. Okay, so I was told go into the engine room, and I'll show you what that means. You have to unlock it, then pull up the hatch. And by the way, this was not working. I had to modify the hatch also. Go down into the engine room. In that situation, of course, it's pretty difficult to come down into the engine room. Look for what could be, try to understand why you are in a blackout. If you think it's a fuse, you have to come to the proper thing, and then you have all this line of fuses, and good luck finding the one that you have to replace.
Anyway, the point is that we are well into the 21st century, and breakers have been invented a century ago, and fuses are archaic, to say the least. A boat of this kind should not be depending on fuses, should not have fuses anyway. All those fuses should be breakers instead, so that when you go down, if one has popped out, you can identify it immediately, will have a readable label, and you can restore it immediately without needing a magnifying lens to find out which one is broken and what does the abbreviation mean, and if you have the proper replacement.
So what I have done at considerable expense, which could have cost next to nothing if done properly during the construction, is to put in an independent panel with a breaker, not a fuse, a breaker for the electronics on the flybridge, a separate one for the main station, and a separate one for the VHF. Now, if, for example, I have a short on the flybridge, I can still use the other helm station, and the VHF is unaffected. I would not find myself, again, 50 miles from the nearest shore with little power in the engines and no navigation. By the way, what saved me in that situation was my app that was in my pocket, so it was not affected by the blackout. And that was the way I was able to reach shore. When I got into range with a cell phone, I called for help, and people came out and brought me safely into port. Luckily, nothing happened physically, but let me tell you, emotionally, and had that happened in a worse condition of weather, that would have been extremely dangerous.